a season right now. A season of fall, a season of contemplation, the season of the saints, right? All Saints Day, and the day before, which is All Hallows Eve, to remember the saints that have done all that work and have gone before us. It's a season of giving thanks, of intentionally focusing on all of the ways that we have been blessed rather than constantly focusing on all the ways we haven't. It's a season where we mull over the magnitude of the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. It's a season of great smells, of dried leaves, of pumpkin spice, of Christmas cookies, of blue spruce and Doug fir and eastern white pine, and how all of these smells summon these emotions tied with memories from our past. We're in the middle of a season. Well, at the same time, we're at the end of a season. The season of COVID-19, of coronavirus, a season of death and disease, a season of keep to yourself and cover your face and don't you dare hug grandma, a season of loneliness and depression and fentanyl overdose after fentanyl overdose after fentanyl overdose, a season of riots and destruction, a season where the churches need to keep their doors shut, but where people need to keep the bottles of booze flowing. We're at the end of a season. While at the same time, we're at the beginning of a season, the election season. A season where people put far too much hope in men. A season that's a time for change and vote for me because I'm not the other guy. A season where so many people buy into this arrogant lie that we can somehow fix all the evil in our world, rather than the truth that even on our best day with our greatest attempts, we can only mitigate some of its effects. We're at the beginning of a season. And with all these seasons going around right now, I can't help to think we need a different kind of season. One that doesn't happen around us or to us, but one that we cause ourselves. A season of prayer and a season of fasting. When I first became a Christian, I remember the things, the rules that the leaders in our church told young 15-year-old Brandon. As a new Christian, you need to pray a lot. You need to have your quiet time. You need to read the Bible every day. And as a new Christian, I didn't have any idea how to do any of these things. In fact, I didn't even know what quiet time was. It sounded to me like you were bad and needed a timeout. So I had to go to my leaders, to the people in my church and go, what does this stuff mean? What does this stuff mean? How do you read the Bible? What is a quiet time and how do you pray? And see, the thing is, they only taught me about those 3 little spiritual disciplines, but there are so many more, like fasting. What is fasting? And a better question is, how do we do it well? For that, we turn to Isaiah chapter 58. It says, cry aloud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the judgment of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why have we fasted and you do not see it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you do not take knowledge of it? Behold, in the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose? A day for a person to humble himself? Is it to bow down his head like a reed and to spread a sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Let's start with those first couple verses. Where here the prophet records that God is sending a messenger to his people with these instructions. Cry aloud, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgressions. So I'm thinking about this and kind of imagining it in my mind, like God is telling one of his angels to go and herald this message to the people. And the message is to cry out loud all of their transgressions. And as I read it from somebody who is reading about other people. It's kind of humorous to me, but I can't help but think of how horrifying this would be if God sent an angel to cry out loud to the public all of my transgressions and sins. It continues, yet they see me daily. And like the emphasis, I think, should be, yet they see me daily, or they seek rather me daily, as if God's saying, with all of these transgressions, somehow they seek me, or they claim, or they purport to seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness. And so here, the prophet is pointing out the obvious hypocrisy. They have these transgressions, yet they follow all of these religious rules. They're really good at talking the talk, and even like in as much as, I suppose, with regard to religious rituals, they're good at walking the walk. However, at the end of the day, all they're really doing is playing pretend. A really good, sick and twisted game of pretend. Then he continues, why have we fasted and you see it not? So now there's this like dialogue between God's people, between Israel and God himself. And the people are saying, why have we fasted? Why have we gone through all these religious rituals and done all these super religious and pious things, right? Why have we done all this and you still don't see us? Why have we humbled ourselves and you take no knowledge of it? So they're crying out like, God, don't you see? Aren't you giving attention to us? Aren't you hearing us? We're doing all of these religious tricks and show things, right? Well, God's answer is this. Behold, in the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and fight. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice heard on high. God says, when you fast, first of all, you're seeking your own pleasures. They're fasting like with some, and we do this today, by the way. They're fasting like, God, I'm going to fast today, and I'm going to pray for, a new truck or a new car or a new house or a wife or, a spouse, right? I'm going to pray for these things in my life or whatever. And I just hope that if I fast, I can manipulate you to do what I want you to do, which is exactly the opposite of the way it's supposed to be, isn't it? Our commands should come from God, not his commands from us. And so he says, when you fast, you're only trying to manipulate me to do things for you, right? When you fast, you take a day off to go and fast, and you do all these religious things to look super religious among all your religious friends. Yet the people you've hired that are in your fields, you're oppressing them. While you go and fast and be religious, you're oppressing your own workers. And at the same time, during this day of fast, you're quarreling amongst each other, which you would expect, right? From a bunch of people who really don't know God, but they act like they know God and they talk like they know God. When they get hungry bellies, they get pretty hangry, don't they? And so they fight and they quarrel, and it even says they hit each other with wicked fists, which to me begs the question, what is a non-wicked fist? It says your voice is not going to be heard on high. Not like this. Is such the fast that I choose? Now God is saying through the prophet, is this the kind of fast that I've chosen for you? A day for a person to humble himself, to bow down his head like a reed and spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? In other words, is it just about putting on a show for you? Like we're on a stage and we have all of these lines that we're supposed to say and these costumes we're supposed to adorn ourselves with, and we're supposed to set up this stage and put on a performance for God, like that's what he wants for us, a fake performance, or we're actors in a play? Is this the fast, or perhaps does God want something deeper from us? Are we fasting to use God or to be used by God? I have in front of me an empty plate. This empty plate is a beautiful thing, you see, because when a plate is empty, it's full of possibility. You could put anything on this plate. You could have, I don't know, something disgusting, like to me, liverwurst. I realize some people like that, but to me, that's disgusting. maybe some Brussels sprouts, right? You could put whatever you want. Or you could put a nice steak, chicken pot pie. I like chicken pot pie, right? Whatever your heart desires. You could load this plate up and fill yourself with its contents. Perhaps fasting is about emptying ourselves before God, but not in some Eastern way where we seek to be just an empty vessel with nothing inside, but emptying ourselves before God so that we can fill ourselves up with His word and His direction. Perhaps fasting is less about being pious and doing religious things and more about positioning ourselves to be filled with His righteousness so that we can live our days in righteousness.